Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in with us today. This wonderful composition concert that our second years have organised and put on for you. Today we will enjoy music that has been composed throughout the year, throughout first and second semester, from our wonderful young composers. Some of the music is electroacoustic, so that means that they've been sampling music and putting it together through electronic processes. Other pieces are instrumental music as well, and so we'll have quite a big variety today. We're also very lucky to have our composers here to talk about a little bit about their work before each of the performance. So without any further ado, welcome to this concert. I now have the privilege of introducing you all to Kirrily Dunn. Her piece is called Reverie. Now, Kirrily, can you tell us a little bit about the title? It's a very evocative title. I'm a bit curious to know what the piece is about.
Yeah, well, Reverie means like a daydream or something, so I created a very dreamy, relaxing, meditative type landscape for the piece. Yeah.
Right, so very landscapey, hey? Can you tell us a little bit about the timbre, perhaps, or the instrumentation?
So pretty much all the sounds I got from the piano and just did different effects and stretching it out or something like that, because I did it last semester, so I was just at home, so I just used instruments I had.
Yeah, great, interesting. And Kirrily, how does one go about composing a piece like this? Is it just a matter of grabbing a pencil and putting it on a stave paper or opening up Sibelius software?
Well, I did the first part on Sibelius, writing the piano part, and then I recorded that and cut it all up on Ableton Live.
Right,
Yes.
Okay. I love Ableton. It's such a cool software.
Yeah.
It's got those two windows that you can toggle between. Yeah. Great. Excellent. All right, so one more thing, perhaps. What should the audience listen out for in your piece?
They could listen out for in the recording it was a bit grainy, so I then used that and added crackling to it later in the piece, and I also brought out other defects in the audio, like a tapping sound, and I changed the EQ on that and everything to create a tapping rhythm later in the piece.
Fascinating. Thank you, Kirrily. So let's now enjoy Reverie by Kirrily Dunn. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to the wonderful Mr. Greg Panaretos. Hi Greg, how you going, man?
Good, thanks, Dan.
Good, good. All right, so Greg, tell us a little bit about the piece that you've composed for today's concert. You know, what's the instrumentation, or what are the sound sources? How have you conceived this piece?
So for this semester, I've been working on my first electroacoustic piece. So I wanted to explore possibilities that I've never done working with instrumental works. So the first thing that I did was I went out and I recorded as many sounds as I could. I recorded a lot of things near the beach, that's where I live, of underwater, of the waves crashing. And then when I listened back to these sounds, I realized I wanted to make something which sounded as if you were in the middle of that vast open ocean. So then I was thinking, you know, what kind of happens in the ocean? So it was around whale season that I was recording. I didn't see any whales, unfortunately, but I was thinking of making a whale song, and unfortunately couldn't record a whale. So I instead recorded an ocarina, and I stretched that out to represent a whale song. And some of the other sounds that I used were like a Cambodian throat, which is like a 2-stringed fiddle. I use that for a very grating and nail-biting sound, I guess. Just to, you know, you're in the middle of this endless ocean. You know, you can't see the bottom. Let's say you're underwater, of course. You can't see the bottom. There's just emptiness all around you. I've also got lots of other sounds that are recorded underwater, so I use things like pots, and I suspended a hydrophone in the middle and tapped on the sides, or I dropped things inside, and that could represent something like water. When you're underwater and it's raining, you get these really cool frequencies, and that was really important for me, making sure that it wasn't too flooded, that there was always lots of space, because you've got it's this endless space that you're in. Yeah.
Fantastic. Absolutely fascinating. All right, well, now let's enjoy this fascinating piece by Greg Panaretos. We now have the great honour of having the composer of the next piece with us today, Mr. Daniel Berry. Daniel Berry has composed a wonderful piece called White Diamonds, and I am here to ask Daniel a few questions, if you don't mind, Dan.
Sure.
So Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about what prompted a piece with such an evocative title?
Well, it actually happened while I was taking a trip to the snow, and I saw the snowflakes falling outside, and I thought to myself, that's such a beautiful scenery, and they looked a little bit like sparkling white diamonds falling through the sky.
Amazing. I'm just trying to imagine the timbres that you would use in a piece like this. Can you tell us a little bit about the instrumentation?
So I've written the piece for piano, cello, and flute, which was kind of inspired by a piano trio, but I decided to use a flute instead of a violin for a bit of contrast in the timbre of those instruments. And in terms of the tone colours I used some extended techniques on the cello and flute to really get some evocative timbres throughout the piece.
Fascinating, fascinating. Great. Now, what do you think that maybe you might want to tell our listeners to keep an ear out for?
Well, the piece goes in 3 main sections. So the first section is a really bright, energetic section, and then there's a stripped back section, which should be quite interesting, and then it builds back again to a grand finish. So I hope you enjoy.
Yes, indeed. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to the next piece, composed by Daniel Berry, called White Diamonds. I now have the great pleasure of introducing you to Courtney Cousins, who's composed a wonderful piece, a very interesting title called The Simulacrum. You can probably see it here. Courtney, so tell us a little bit about the title of your piece.
So basically, one of my favourite philosophers is this French guy called Jean Baudrillard. And he wrote this essay called Simulacra and Simulations. And it's basically about how copies have become the new reality. Think like the Matrix style, really creepy and scary.
Wow.
So reality is just taken away. So yeah, that's the story behind the name.
Wow, fascinating. So now tell us about the music behind the name.
Yeah, what's that got to do with it?
No,
Yeah.
this is fascinating.
So basically, I'm really interested in this idea of communication, obviously. So the piece, it's an electroacoustic piece, and it's entirely created of recordings of the human voice.
Right.
So just my family talking. And I was interested in this idea of this communication state failing. So when we listen, when does meaning and communication become just sound and music? Just this idea of falling apart.
Wow, Courtney, this is so profoundly philosophical. So
Thank
do
you.
you think that people will get the references?
No way at all, unless they're really educated or something. But it's just my conceptual process. It's the way I like to write. And more importantly, I just think, the sound of my mum saying, the simulacrum is true over and over again. It's just really creepy and cool. It's just all about the sound, really, and what people hear.
Fascinating. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the sort of timbres, sort of samples, the sounds that we can expect to hear.
Well, at first, you wouldn't even notice that you can hear the human voice at all.
Yeah.
You can't hear it. You think it's just weird electroacoustic-y sounds, but then you'll hear something and you think, hey, hang on a second, was that a word? And then it'll disappear.
Wow.
So that's definitely the idea.
Fascinating, fascinating. Great, thank you very much, Courtney. So now, The Simulacrum by Courtney Cousins.
Simulacrum.
The next piece on our concert is composed by wonderful composer Michael Lanyon, and his piece is called Best Laid Plans. We happen to have the composer here, just like all the other ones. And, Michael, this is an interesting title, Best Laid Plans. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the title and also about the piece?
Yeah, it's in reference to the poem Schemes of Mice and Men, and the piece is basically an homage to my tech teacher, who commonly uses that phrase when things go wrong or happy accidents occur. So that's kind of the meaning and purpose behind it, is trying to find that silver lining in the really dark clouds.
Sounds very optimistic.
Yeah.
Sort of mindset that perhaps is rather apposite for these times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. And now, can you tell us a little bit about how this piece came about?
Well, I was watching a documentary by Marcus Dostal called Music of the Primes, and I thought, what a wonderful idea if I actually made music out of prime numbers.
Wow.
And then through that, I've extended that in another piece using, because what arises in the piece is actually, and this was by accident, using Goldbach's conjecture. So I followed that up in another piece later on. But yeah, that's the piece is primarily composed and works off prime numbers. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So it ties in with the theme of fate and destiny and all that stuff that goes with the idea of best laid plans, the schemes of mice and men, because nobody can predict these prime numbers. We're still trying to prove Riemann's hypothesis with computers. Yeah, I thought it was a good analogy as to kind of things going wrong and happy accidents and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
No, I dig it entirely.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the instrumentation, the timbres, and the actual composition?
Yeah, and I arranged it for piano, cello, and viola. And I actually had to change it because I made the cello piece a little bit too hard. So, but I wanted to do something because I'm a huge flute fan, and all my compositions usually feature flute. So I wanted to step away from the flute and try something different. Yeah, different ensemble. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Yep.
So now let's enjoy Michael Lanyon's Best Laid Plans. The next piece is by Eamon Roche, and his piece is called Stargazing. We happen to have the composer here today. Hello, Eamon, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So tell us a little bit about your piece, perhaps in terms of your source of inspiration for this piece.
Yeah, so this is an electroacoustic piece. I've written plenty of electronic music before, but for this one I wanted to write something quite a bit longer. So what you're about to hear is the first half of the work. It goes for about 10 minutes total. And the specific idea is to capture the idea of stargazing. So stars are very violent and destructive. They're also very far away and hard to see. So I did a lot of playing around with space and like emptiness in the piece, while also using a lot of noise to kind of symbolize violence.
Wow, sounds fascinating. And now I'm just curious, what sort of sounds are you using, or the sort of timbres that you're using in this piece?
Yeah, so actually the main sound just came from this water bottle, going like, that's the majority of the piece is just that sound edited in various ways, along with a couple of synthesized sounds, and that's about all.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Eamon. We look forward to hearing the next piece, which is Eamon Roche's Stargazing.
next work is by Julia Fitzgerald. Julia, what was the idea you had in mind when you started writing this piece?
I wanted to write a composition that kind of worked with tension and release in harmony. So that's not something that I've really worked with before. A lot of my harmony is often quite diatonic and it's not really like very experimental. So I wanted to sort of push myself outside of that little box and kind of experiment a little more with harmonies that aren't so diatonic.
Yeah, very interesting. And what was the inspiration for this piece?
I wanted to write a piece for solo piano, which I haven't written for before because that's my main instrument. So that was kind of where I started, and then I got a lot of inspiration from composers that I listened to or play. So a lot of kind of impressionist style, Claude Debussy and Eric Satie.
Cool.
And then I kind of went from there and pushed it a little bit more to make it more my style.
Fantastic. Well, let's hear what you came up with.
I now have the great pleasure of introducing you to the wonderful young composer, Isabella Rahme. Now, thank you, Isabella. It's a pleasure. Now, Isabella, tell us a little bit about your piece. What is the instrumentation and the nature of your piece?
Yes, so it's for harp and fixed media. So it's a live harp part that I would perform in person, but we can't do that because of COVID. And then a fixed media component that would be played behind that instrumentation. But the entire of the fixed media components are actually all samples from my harp itself as well, which have gone through various processes. Sometimes you know that it's from the harp, sometimes it's very unclear. So different levels of abstractions are kind of what compose that sort of fixed media part.
Right, how fascinating. So did you write down any notation, or was it improvised, or you sampled only, or is it a mixture of things?
Definitely a mixture of things. When it came to the live component, I was doing a lot of improvisation. I would kind of pick a number of techniques, sometimes extended techniques, sometimes just simple melodic figures, and kind of try and develop them over a few minutes. And then I think what about this do I want to explore in the fixed media part. So I did a lot of taking the resonance of the instrument after I had played something. So instead of taking the attack and the decay of the sound, just the decay, and then putting that in the fixed media part and stretching it and distorting it and doing all sorts of processes to sort of build the atmosphere of the piece or the movement that I was working on. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't wait to dive into this piece. Let's get into it, hey? This is the piece. The title of the piece is here, and it's by Isabella Rahme. I now have the great pleasure to introduce you the composer for the next piece. His name is Thnvir Gill, and the name of the piece is Carbon Chains. And I understand this is an electronic piece, right, or an electroacoustic piece?
An electronic piece. Given the restrictions of COVID, it's more difficult than ever to get performers in a room together. So I decided that this was a good time as any to really work on something electronic.
That's interesting, because I mean, you're an amazing composer that can toggle between electroacoustic music and instrumental music as well, right? So it's interesting that you chose to do that, and I guess that's the reason for why you chose to present something like this for this concert.
I think it's important to open yourself up to all avenues of composition as a composer and as a musician in general.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, also, Thnvir, how would you describe the compositional process?
Very informally. It largely begins with just throwing stuff together and seeing what sounds good, and then from there it's all about sorting and peeling stuff back until you get to the core of an idea. I tend not to consider things like structural parts of music like the key signature and the tempo and the time signature when I'm doing this process. I create a core idea and then I try to fit those things onto it.
Right, interesting. Okay, so you're peeling back to find the core, and then you kind of put out some of those formalities back in as informed by the core.
Yeah, I feel like if you start with a key and a tempo and a time signature and then try to compose from there, there's a lot of expectation that you have on what you're supposed to write. So fascinating, great. So can you perhaps give the audience an idea of what they should be listening out for as they experience your piece? So the piece is all about evolution in the layers. There's a lot of things that are introduced and then dispersed. A lot of it's in the stereo field, so I try to make the piece as deep and as wide as possible.
So now let's sit back and enjoy Thnvir Gill's piece, Carbon Chains. I now have the pleasure to introduce a wonderful young composer, Julia Vlahogiannis. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Everyone has trouble saying it, but you got it right. So
I had to practice it.
multiple times, but we're sweet now.
That's right. So Julia, you've written a wonderful electroacoustic piece, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you worked this piece out, right? Because it's not every day that you write an electroacoustic
No,
piece, right?
so I'm more of an ensemble writer, so electroacoustic was completely out of my reach. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I just thought I want to create something that I can't with ensemble pieces. So I wanted to make something a lot more atmospheric and also incorporate elements that I do like some chords and some strings and violins and to create what I've created.
Fantastic. And how did you create it? Did you record? Did you sample?
Yeah.
How did you go about that?
Yeah, so with the microphone, I recorded a water dispenser in my fridge, and I just recorded the water sounds and getting those low and high frequencies and playing around with those. I also recorded my voice accidentally talking over the top of my recording. So I was like, oh, this would be really cool. So I used that in the piece as well. So yeah, you get a bit of those elements as well as the violin and viola chords, and it's a whole journey. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
I'm sure we will. But Julia, I'm still curious about one more thing. How do you put all that together? What do you use? Do you get a big tape or something like that? You press record? I'm old school.
So in terms of recording, I'm on my computer, and I put my microphone into an interface, and I kind of just record that way. And with the violins and stuff, I have my own computer sounding violins, but they sound good, I promise. I just use those to create the piece.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So now let's enjoy the world premiere of Julia Vlahogiannis' new work.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed our concert. We had a great time making that. And we'd like to extend our thanks to Daniel Rojas, who has been our composition lecturer for this semester and past semester. And we cannot thank you enough for what you've done for our class. So we'd like to show you our appreciation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to the whole class as well. Like, I really appreciate the amount of work that you put in this semester and last semester. And also the wonderful vibe that we've had in class. It really has been extraordinary. Also, thank you very much to the audience for being such a fantastic audience. I want to thank you for tuning in, and please do continue to encourage our young composers, because they're very, very talented, they're very, very hardworking, and there is a good future for them. Thank you so much. How about I leave you with a little music?
Excellent.
Make something up, is that right?
Yeah.
We've talked about improvisation, so I might make a little something up, just to say thank you. Oh, let's put this down here. Let me practice that. Best laid plans.
Best laid plans.
Best laid plans. BLP. BL. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. I now have now we have Daniel's berries. Now we have Daniel. Well, I'm so sorry. Sorry, but. And as my girlfriend says, slow down, Rojas. Slow down, Rojas.
Oh no!
Let's try that again. Now let's listen to Isabella Rahme's piece for half and half. The German name, right? Julia Vlahogiannis. Julia Vlahogiannis. Julia Vlahogiannis. Now we have